Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We are super excited today because we have an amazing guest, Mr. Jerome Maldonado. Jerome, thanks for joining. How's it going, bro?
It's going real good, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm always on the run. So you guys see we got concrete trucks in one of our developments right here. And so I'm mobile, and I'm excited to be here with you, Abel.
Yeah, thanks for making time in your busy schedule, man. I know that you must have a lot of things going on, and just appreciate that you'd spend a little bit of time with us and our guests and our audience, because they're going to learn a lot. I know from this, interview, because you've got a tremendous mindset, a tremendous success, kind of compounding your success mindset that leads into real estate, investing, and so many other things. So if you don't have a pen and a piece of paper, now's a great time to get one. Take some notes. And if you're running or jogging or something on your podcast, and when you get home, you want to rewind this one, I promise. So let me introduce Jerome for a second, and then I'll turn it over to him. He is a 26-year owner of J. Jacobs. It's a real estate development company. They've really specialized in residential and land development for subdivisions, commercial real estate development, and they do a lot of multifamily. They do some retail, but I mean, he is as true as they come. He's a real estate investor. He right now they've got a focus on industrial warehouse. They do distressed assets, luxury real estate. They're, headed to Puerto Rico. So anyways, we'll have a good conversation. And you just have a tremendous, capability and then ability to share some of your successes with everyone else. And I've really appreciated meeting you and just kind of getting in your world this year. And thank you very much for joining. So let me turn it over to you, brother. Tell us, about yourself and who you are, and we'll get into a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Abel. So, what's funny is that I never even really consider myself a real estate guru. I got started in sales back when I was in college. Ran a successful company for about 5 years. We went through some hiccups and some bumps in the road being young and wet behind the ears. And I landed up in construction, of all places. Went from being in pharmacy school into construction. Didn't realize how much money and how financially viable construction was. And I was making more by the time I graduated school than I was with my degree. So I landed up pouring concrete, and hence we're still pouring concrete today. We got full crews that we pour several hundreds of yards every single week. And that turned into building homes, one home at a time back in the 90s. And I landed up getting kicked out of of running my business out of my house. And I was forced to buy a commercial property. And that's how I got started in commercial real estate. Was I landed up buying my first building strictly because of need, not anything else. But I didn't want to pay for the rent. So I landed up buying multiple units on purpose to be able to have other people pay for my building for me. And I kind of thought through that process. And in 6 months, I had the building stabilized, and it was successful. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. This building's paying for itself, and I got free rent here. I'm going to do this again. And so I did it again. And by early 2000s, I started building them brand new. I started scraping dirt, building them brand new. We started building one home at a time, doing the same thing in the construction company, and then developing land. And so we're still developing land. We got a 200-acre parcel. And in fact, we're working on phase 2 of that 200 acres that we bought over 10 years ago. And so it's been a great road. We've diversified our investment portfolio. We've pivoted with the market over the last 25 years. When things went south in retail in 2008, when the financial crisis hit and things went south in the housing market, we started getting into multifamily, and and distressed assets. And it's been a great road. And we're doing a lot of industrial warehouse now. And like you mentioned, we're doing a lot of luxury real estate, primarily in Puerto Rico because of the tax advantages to business owners and high-end real estate in those areas. So it's been a fun ride, Abel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, for those that don't know, because I've heard your, all of the different transactions and everything, just you're kind of just scratching the surface right now, but how many, over the 26 years, how many transactions in the commercial real estate space do you think you can kind of, just allude to? Is it, you've done 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, just at a high level? How many deals do you think you've been involved in one way or the other?
Well over 100. I don't even know. I think we've, even just this last year in 2020, when the people were scarce, we probably took down, I think we did about 23 transactions last year alone.
just in 2020, Jerome?
Just in 2020. Yeah. So
oh, that's awesome, man.
we have a lot going on. And you're right. I just scraped the surface, and
yeah,
my wife always asks me, she goes, I don't know why you keep buying stuff. And yeah, it's been a fun game. We're in a good place in our life, and
yeah,
things have went well for us. But we, it hasn't always been like that. I hate telling people, hey, I went from nothing to this, and it was an easy road, because it wasn't. In all honesty, It's been a lot of work. We went through a lot of trials, a lot of ups and downs. Nothing that we do is simple. In fact, I was on a zoning call last night at 7:00, and I got denied on a project, and so I got to go reapply and fight again. And so there's always, there's always a little bit of this, that, and the other that goes on between everything that we do. And it's all in a day's work. Like I say, all of it's all in a day's work.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I have some of my friends that have been telling me, they're like, dude, you're blowing up. You got all these real estate deals, and you came out of nowhere. And I go, man, you forget I started investing in 2008. Like, did you forget about all those conversations we had for the past 13 years? And, I wouldn't quite say I'm blowing up, yet. I'm just getting into commercial real estate, but there's a long path. And some people ask me, how do I get in? How do I do what you do? I go, well, started 13 years ago. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be rapid, but if you keep going, if you keep, stay persistent about it, then you can absolutely achieve way bigger than I've ever been able to do if you just get after it, So,
yeah. No, it's
awesome.
true.
So, if you could also, how many, whatever you feel comfortable talking about, just to quantify some of this stuff, how many hundreds of millions of dollars do you think you're, in holding, or, just whatever you feel comfortable saying, but just, give us an idea so we can like quantify in our heads. I've had people that have had half a billion dollars, a couple of $2 billion portfolios. And just, I'm always like, whatever state you're at, 50 million, 100 million, more, because people can I almost identify, okay, this is like 10 steps away from me. I want them to get an idea of where you're at.
Yeah. So I've done about $200 million, a little over $200 million in in-house transactions. So when I say in-house transactions, those are transactions that we have done personally through our company. Not for customers, not for clients. It's stuff we've either bought and sold. And because of the nature of our business, we do buy the majority of our long-term holdings. We have two different type of companies. We have the development company, and some of it is buy, build, develop, and sell for revenue. And a good majority of our stuff is buy and hold. And so between the two, we've done about $200 million in in-house transactions. That's a big number for us. We're working on scaling it right now. But we're proud of those numbers. I came from nothing, man. I came from about $110,000 in debt back in 1996. And I'll tell you, I thought at that point in time, I couldn't even afford to take a girl on a date. I remember walking through El Paso, Texas, having an office out there thinking, oh my God, how did I get myself in this hole? Am I going to ever climb out of this damn thing? And the tables have turned, Abel, and it's been a good ride, man. My wife and I we've been blessed for sure. It's been a great ride.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, so thank you very much, because that gives, everyone an idea. And now, you don't just, we just talked about this. You don't just get there overnight. 26 years of grinding things out. What was your original mindset to real estate? Was it something that you always wanted to get into? Was it something that, your mindset said, hey, enough is enough. I have to figure this out. What was that mindset of real estate in the beginning, and maybe talk to us about the mindset now?
Yeah. So, that I never got involved in real estate thinking that it would scale to this. In all honesty, I ran this as a business. I went through a lot of ups and downs in early years. From 1993 to 1996 was a wild roller coaster for me, financially. And I was tired of the roller coaster. By 1998 is when I really got into real estate. And it was more so to have assets that I could have in spite of my businesses, so that if all else failed, I knew that I owned an asset. And I simply just got into it, like most people would probably consider getting into it, as a part-time endeavor, to buy something that they could hold, right? And I bought a couple rental homes. I landed up buying a building. And then that was successful with those. And then I started thinking to myself, I told my wife early years, I said, look, let's get enough buildings where we have $250,000 in rent coming in every year. And we can retire on that, And so early years, I thought like that. I said, let's just get $250,000 of revolving capital. And then we're at a place where we have decisions we can make. Well, that's come and gone. And we've superseded that by a good scale. And it's been a great ride. And so my mindset really wasn't around real estate. It was more about running my business. And I wanted a retirement guarantee for myself, like most people do. That's why they go out and work a job and try to get a pension. Well, I didn't have that luxury because I was self-employed. I needed to have something that was going to be more stable than a pension. And real estate was that vehicle for me. And so, by the time I was 30 years old, I'd hit millionaire status, and I was in a position where if I wanted to, I could retire and live off of the residuals from my real estate. And I realized, like a light bulb goes off in your head, and you're like, damn, this is great. If I play this right, I can scale this, and I can do big things with it. So I did, and here we sit. I've turned it into a full-time business. I tell people real estate's a business like anything. You buy one property. One property is a business, right? And so I look at every single individual piece of real estate as a business, Abel. And so since I've gotten good at business, I've been able to underwrite deals where I look at each individual property as a single business. And so each one of them has been successful, even through the downturn of the recession, even though we struggled with making payments on stuff for a short time, and we had to get creative. Even those were successful. They were just stressful at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you very much for sharing. I think the word underwriting and the way you're doing analysis on one asset at a time of business, I think it's outside looking in. Most people don't quite get it. They just think, oh, portfolio. I've got a lot of holdings, but there's a financial analysis for the passive investors that are listening, or maybe you're an active investor trying to do your first deal. That underwriting is, you're literally looking at the heart and the soul of the business. You can go drive by the property and see how it looks and feels and great, but you're looking at this financial analysis and trying to figure out how much income is coming in after expenses. That brings your net operating income. And then your business strategy or execution plan is going to be, how do I reduce expenses and increase NOI? And then, in Jerome's world, his development analysis is a little bit heavier because he's looking at raw ground, dirt, and then population and market, all the other stuff in addition to the properties already built. And there's the front end of a couple of years with no income coming in, all the expenses going out. So, that's exactly what Jerome's talking about. So if I can ask you the question for everyone that's listening, like, how do you even start for somebody that's never done analysis on a property? Think back to way back when. How did you get good at finding deals? How did you get good at underwriting? How does that just even build?
By making people mad, Abel.
I'd love to hear this. I'm excited, man. Tell me.
Oh man, when you don't know what you're doing, you got to be super conservative. And when you're super conservative and you're trying to get the best deal you can, you make people mad when you go in negotiating deals. And I didn't know how, so I did one deal at a time. And it was one of those things that in early years I would run numbers. I would sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and a calculator, a little Texas Instrument $15 Walgreens calculator. And I would just sit down and I'd break down numbers. And I would evaluate and assess cost and profitability. And I tried to sit down, and over the course of a day. Then I would sit down, I would assess all the costs. Then I'd sit for a day, let my brain work, because other things would come up. And in the middle of the night, I would just jot things down, say, oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about that. And I'm like that. I'm a visual person. And at night, I actually think of more stuff than I do during the day sometimes, because we get combobulated with all the stress of our day-to-day life. And so I would just make numbers work. And when they made sense to me, I would start going out and gallivanting, looking for land that made sense in the areas that I wanted to buy real estate. And in Abel, I didn't start with big plots of land. I started with one lot. I bought a lot I bought a 1 acre lot. I was going to divide it in half, because I figured I could put two houses on a 1 acre lot, do half acre, and I could double down and get one lot for free. And I was always real savvy like that. And I thought, okay, how do I position myself to take advantage of this? And I went through the process. I hired a survey company to help me. I paid them like $3,000 to help me with my first deal. I learned a lot. That $3,000 was a great investment in a consulting fee. I think people get afraid to spend a little bit of money on their education. And to me, that was an education. I spent $3,000. I hired them. They helped me with the subdivide. It was super simple. Wasn't a big expense. And I made $35,000, on my first deal. I divided the land. I was going to build on it, and I landed up getting an offer on the land before I finished it. And so, lo and behold, I made a profit, and I got excited about it. That little $35,000 was huge. It was a big piece of where I went. And I thought, okay, well, if I did this once, let me try this again, And then I bought another piece of land, and I built out one house, and then I built out a second. Then I bought a bigger piece of land. I built out a few homes, and I sold a few lots, made money on both the land and building the houses. And then while all this was going on, I started buying commercial real estate. So I was doing both at the same time. And I had my crews going in and renovating old vacant retail buildings that I bought distressed for almost nothing. And we repositioned them and rented them for inexpensive money, and gave people a nice place, and they cash flowed. But I'll tell you, a big part of my success, I see people that want to quit their jobs all the time, Abel. They want to just end what they're doing so that they can do real estate full time. Well, if you look behind me here, yes, this is a development we live in, but this is also clientele stuff that's going on too. And so what made this all possible was we had to keep food in our mouth. And you're 100% right. Some of these developments take 2 years before I even see a penny on them. Mm-hmm. And when I get paid, we get paid in millions of dollars, but man, it takes some time to do. So in the interim time, we're pouring concrete. And even to this day, it's our cash flow. And so multiple streams of income, and having multiple streams of income have been the pivotal part to our success. Tremendous part to our success.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me, so many things here. And I really appreciate you just, being transparent and sharing some of these nuggets, because this is what helps a lot of people that want to get to a position where you're at, but they don't know how. And a lot of people do think, okay, I just need to split. I need to leave my job. And even, for me, I just went full-time commercial real estate just last year. And that was, again, after 12 years of investing and working full-time in a W-2. But the way you say it, it just makes perfect sense, because you got to have some cash flow today. And if your holdings are not providing you enough cash flow, then you got to go trade time for money somewhere. I know even the Rich Dad Poor Dad, Kiyosaki's book, where we know, hey, don't trade time for money. Yes, when you have money, you can go invest it and it creates. But if you don't have any money, you have to go start somewhere and provide some kind of value. Trade your time for money. That's active capital, and then put it into, I think what Jerome said was, create multiple active cash streams or cash flow streams of income. And he's been pouring concrete, and that provides the cash flow so that he can go invest and take care of these long-term projects, which obviously pay off big time. So that was super awesome. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. I also heard earlier when you said you have two parts of your business. You buy, build, develop, and sell. And then you have a buy and hold section. Is that kind of the same mentality as one's active, one's going to bring in some cash, and then one you're trying to hold as long as possible? Or give me some of that mindset here. Okay.
So we do our real estate development. I'll usually build out 2/3. The business model for the development company is to build out 2/3, have the 2/3 that I sell off pay for the 1/3. So I own it cash free and clear, and I own it outright. And so I hold about 1/3 of it. Now, sometimes when I do that, if it sells, if I get the right offer in the market's right, sometimes I'll sell the whole thing off. Yeah. And people ask me what I do about taxes and stuff. And I go and buy more real estate and I depreciate it. And so when I do that, when I go and buy an asset to depreciate it, I have to hold it. And so I have something like 28 LLCs active right now. Each of them holds a different asset that's in long-term holding. And I have one LLC that has our revolving real estate. And then we have a corporation that houses our business, which has our active projects, right? And so our LLCs subcontract work out to our corporation, and then our holding LLCs are down below, and we have a lot of real estate that we hold. So the business model, and we have this project that we're going to be doing up in Washington State. And so the gentleman that's going to be that I'm partnering with up there, that he's going to be running the day-to-day operations. I'm going to be the financial end to it, and I'm going to be the management end to the projects, like the structure of it. And it's a 50-50 partnership. What I told him, I said, okay, look, we need to scale this where the companies are each bringing in over $1 million gross net every single year, for each of us. Otherwise, it's not worth my time anymore. And I said, but once we do that, let's deploy 1/3 of this money that's profitable into these cottages that we're talking about. They're the micro homes that are real popular, almost like multifamily, 600, 800 square foot micro homes with garages, and we're going to build them out. And I said, and let's just take that capital, invest it straight into those right away. So we have, we can write part of that off, but then we have long-term holdings. So my whole thing is any profit that I make, I just deploy it back into some long-term holdings, so it continues to build my asset base long-term, because that's how you create wealth in your life. Like, people want to spend and buy cars and stuff like that. Shit, I'll tell you, I did all that in my 20s. I had some fat cars. I had a big fat lake house over in Lake Medina, near the neck of the woods, and I was driving
Lake Medina. Yeah, that's right up the road, man.
Yeah. And so that was back when Bernie was nothing. I mean, Bernie was a gas station, some little retail centers, and the old original Rudy's Barbecue. Yeah. And
for those listeners, these are all places in Texas, like right up the road from San Antonio. So anyways,
so right down the road from Abel's place. So anyways, I did all that, and then stupidly I lost everything. And then I thought, I'm never going to do this shit again. I got it. I got to set this up right. And so my son, we have a friend that he has a bunch of Ferraris, a couple Lamborghinis, and he always says, oh, they're richer than us. And I tell him, it's hard to tell your kids, no, they're not. And they go, Daddy, you're just jealous, right? And it's funny because I tell my kids, I said, well, let me explain this to you. Let me put it in perspective. And so I'll tell him, look, son, you see this piece of real estate that we own, that Daddy owns? We can buy 25 Lamborghinis with that, right? And we own it. We don't have a payment on it. And I said, that's one. And then I go to another one. I said, remember you asked me about all those Lamborghinis and those Ferraris? I said, well, look, I said, right over there, that building, that little tiny one that Daddy's owned for over 20 years, it's paid off. That thing's made me well over $2 million in rental income over 20 years. And that one building could buy me like 7 Lamborghinis, And so his mindset now is starting to change because he's sitting back going, again. And I said, if I go spend $300,000, $400,000 on a car, that's an asset, man, that I could take that $400,000 and invest it into a $1.2 million building that brings me in $200,000, $180,000 a year in revenue, And so you look at things differently. And as you mature, like that kind of stuff, it's great. It's fun. We have a car, I have Porsches and motorcycles that I love. But in all honesty, real estate has become a game that I enjoy. And it's not even it's more about my kids and my family than it is about that stuff. I love that stuff, but that stuff sits in my garage. I don't even have time to drive the stuff I have, man.
Yeah.
So,
this is a great, topic, Jerome, because there are families right now, and I think you put it into perspective. We may not be talking about Lamborghinis, but there's people that are listening that maybe are in their first deal, their second deal, and they've got a perspective, a way to share it with their children, because that one deal may be, however many bikes they're thinking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Lamborghinis, but teaching your children something along those lines of assets or rich and wealth, or somebody seems like they're making a ton of money because they flaunt it, or they buy on credit more than they should, whatever their lifestyle. I think that is just such a lesson that's going to stay with people, with children forever. And, you're really going to impact a legacy on that one, man. That's so awesome. How old are your children now? And, how old are they now?
They're my son's 13 and my daughter's 10. So my son's really starting to understand it now. My daughter, not much, not yet, not quite so, but she's hearing it, so she'll get it. My son now, he's little light bulbs. I see little light bulbs and little pivotal moments that he's starting to recognize it.
Yeah.
So
they kind of grew up with you around the sites, around the job sites and your properties, that type of thing.
Oh yeah. They were running on dirt and playing, and I'd always take a football with us. And when they were younger, in fact, my son, I used to put him in one of those baby brochures on my chest and take him to work with me all day long. I'd go meet with clients, and my wife said, "You gonna take him?" I said, "Yeah, all day long." I said, if people can't understand that I'm going to sell a project with them with my son on my chest, then I don't need their business,
Yeah, I love it.
And so, I take my kids all day with me, and they would run. Now that they're getting older, they don't want to be with me anymore. They don't want to be on job sites anymore. But when they were kids, they were with me all the time, and they were turning dirt, and they were learning about plumbing and rough-ins and concrete and building, framing houses, and they were running around. And they're getting it now, Dak Prescott just got that $160 million contract with the Cowboys. And I told my son, I said, so the first time when he told me that, I said, "Cool, man, he finally got a contract." He said, "So he's going to get $70 million in his first year." And I told my son, "So look," I said, "my son's an athlete. He wants to go pro doing something, and he's multi-diverse." But I tell him, "Look, pro athletes, one of the biggest problems is that they don't know how to invest their capital a lot of times." And I said, "I can show Dak how to take that $70 million and not pay a penny in revenue and still keep it free. When you take that $70 million, buy an asset with it that's worth, $250 million, get cash flow from it, then refinance, get my money back out. Now, since it's a loan, you depreciate the whole damn building the first year. So you pay no taxes on that $70 million. Then you take that money out and with a refinance. And because it's a loan now, you don't pay any taxes on it. And now you let your asset just pay it off. And you have cash flow and asset plus your $70 million back out. Now you own a $250 million building. And that's the stuff that athletes don't know about, right? Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that you and I have worked a long time to learn and understand. And so I try to teach that stuff to my kids, because I tell them, go be a teacher, go be a doctor. I don't care what you do. Just learn the real estate game, because the real estate game is life-changing if you learn how to do it right.
Boom, baby. Boom. I love it, Jerome. We have so many similarities, because I tell my wife something similar. I have a 3-year-old and a 1, and I tell my wife and some of my family friends, I want her and him to be able to do whatever the heck they want to do, follow their dreams, follow their passions, all that good stuff. All of that stuff requires money. And if they can learn the real estate side, go create some assets for themselves, then they can do whatever the heck they want to go do on their own time, and still have the cash flow and the capital to support themselves. And then I really like the, all of the mindsets that you're talking about, from the tax, all of the things. If somebody has a $70 million windfall, or even a $70,000 windfall, what happens is, in the W-2 or the corporate world, or any kind of paycheck side of it, you're going to get taxed. The government takes 25-30% of it right off the top. You don't see it. But if you invested that same amount of money, Jerome was talking about, is at least one of the components is the ability to depreciate an asset. In commercial, you have a different ability to do so. And in residential, it's 27 and a half years. In commercial, a building would be 39 years, or residential multifamily is still 27 years. But the key in commercial side is they're big enough to where we can do like a cost segregation study and go accelerate our depreciation over 5 years instead of the IRS schedule of 27 or 39. So you're basically squeezing all of this depreciable, the dollar amount of the property, and you squeeze it in the first 5 years, and it just drops your taxable income drastically, massively. I'll give my example, Jerome. In 2019, we invested $100K cash. I was still a W-2 employee. My wife was the real estate professional in the house. And we put $100K in, and we wrote off $69,000 of taxes. My W-2 income, tax world was like $35K. And we basically wiped that whole thing off. That was the aha moment for me to go, oh, I was doing it really wrong. And now I've learned I got to switch it up. But I mean, that's the benefit of tax. And Jerome mentioned it also earlier. He said his friends asked him, don't you worry about taxes, capital gains? And the answer was absolutely, he's got to pay them. But in the same year, you go buy something else, and that's your accelerated depreciation, or whatever, however you depreciate the taxes, and you just wipe out the gains from one year to the next, and you keep moving it forward, man. So all those are money, Jerome. Money.
Yeah,
money.
it's just good stuff. It's a fun game when you learn how to play it. I know people looking at getting started, they have that little quirk in their stomach, and they're nervous about things. And I've been there. I still ride that wave on different projects. Anytime I start a new project, like even that one that we're doing in Kirtland, because we've never done that market, and just the dynamics, having to fly back and forth and get that one going. I'll tell you, it always gives me a little butterflies. So those people that are watching this, they're going, yeah, it's easy. It's easier, it's easier for you said than done, because you've been there and you've done it. Well, I still get those exact same feelings every time I'm starting a new project.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, here we go again, and I don't think about the duration of time, because time goes by so fast. When I sit down and break down the time duration, I get a little stressed out, and I get those little butterflies, because I'm human, right? But they last that long now. And the second the project gets started, the project becomes exciting, and they all go away. And then it just becomes another day in the office. And it's always been like that. Like, I fly to Puerto Rico this weekend, and we got 3 projects, two that are under contract, total of 5, 3 that are one it's about to close, 2 that are closed, and 2 more that are development projects up in Puerto Rico because of the tax benefits. And so yeah, things are moving up there. And so.
That's awesome, man. So, we've got a few minutes left, just to pack in a couple extra nuggets here. Tell us more about what you're doing today. Puerto Rico, new market, new development. What's going on over there? What in the world?
We got too much going on. I'll tell you, we got some industrial warehouse stuff that we're working on in Illinois. We got a few warehouses down in Virginia. We're underwriting some stuff right now up in the Sacramento Valley. We're not sure if we're going to take that stuff down, but the acquisition is actually looking really promising. It's some repositioning of some old retail. Puerto Rico is, because of the tax benefits, it was kind of an accident with all this stuff with COVID happening. And then everything with the election year and everything changing, because Puerto Rico is not a state, there's massive tax benefits out there. And so with interest rates being so low and people moving all over the country from high stake markets like California, moving into Texas and Arizona, well, I'll tell you, moving to Texas, Arizona, moving to Florida and some of these tax-free states like Nevada are great. But Puerto Rico, because of the corporate tax side of it and the personal tax side of federal and state tax side of it, is huge. So there's a lot of wealthy people, U.S. American people that are moving to Puerto Rico. and they're overpaying for real estate. So I'll give you an example. There was a condo that we purchased for $4.1 million, just got offered $5.5 million for it. We've only owned it for 2 months.
Wow.
So if you want to become a millionaire, you do it in
there's an easy millionaire side right there.
2 months. Yeah. It will hold, things are thriving so much. I think that million might turn into 2 million in a year from now. And so there's a lot going on. So we got that stuff going on in Puerto Rico. There's a lack of inventory like out there, like there is everywhere. The difference, it gives us a little more confidence out there that even if the market tanks, we're dealing with wealthy money, and the wealthy don't get affected like the average person does.
Yeah.
Big money, old money, and big money doesn't get affected, when there's downturns in economics. So understand that's one reason that we're doing Puerto Rico. And then we have this Kirtland project that we're doing up in Washington State, which we're going to be redeveloping, tearing down old real estate. We're buying single family homes in given areas. We're leveling them, and then we're building cottage style homes to fit the market. They're all like $1.5 million to $2 million cottages in that area. And then we have our day-to-day stuff that we do here in Arizona and New Mexico. And we have our development stuff each day here that we have all our employees running. And I still deal with running around and helping out with the business. We have our government work as well that we do. And so we have a lot going on. There's a lot of projects in the millworks right now.
Yeah, brother. Well, congratulations on all your success. And if somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe tell us where and how to contact you. And then who do you actually want to reach out to you?
Sure. So anybody can reach out to me. I'm always good to say hi, but people that are interested in investing in real estate along the side with us, we're always looking for investors that have interest. Good people. If you're bad people, don't call us, but if you're good people, we want good people that fall in line with the ethics and morale that we function in. We have some fun projects going on. We give some good rates. It's a great place to put money, better than the stock market, in my opinion, and better than in the bank for sure. But not only that, other folks that have projects, if you're an investor, we do have a limited educational platform that we utilize to help us raise capital for our projects. And so if you're an investor, one of the biggest things that I've noticed over the years is that even people that are doing big projects and big purchases, one of the biggest downfalls that I see in their projects is they don't know how to do project management. It's one thing that we've gotten great at running construction companies for so many years. They buy these big assets, and then the way they do renovations, value adds, and stuff like that, it's a mess. I go on time and time again, Abel. I see it where people are managing things wrong. They're leaving a ton of money on the table. All of you guys that are experienced investors that don't know how to project manage, you're losing out on a lot of capital, thousands of dollars, and sometimes even millions of dollars, depending on the size of the project. If you guys need help with that stuff, we have we help investors monetize and systemize that stuff so that they can increase their profitability. And so reach out to us. We're on all social media platforms. If you go to Jerome Maldonado on Facebook, we're there. If you go to Jerome Maldonado on LinkedIn, we're there. On Instagram, it's Jerome Maldonado, but it has the number 1 on at the end of it. So Jerome Maldonado and the number 1. And then our YouTube channel. We do a lot of content production on YouTube. And where I met Abel is Clubhouse. We're on there as well. And I have the same profile picture everywhere you go. And so we're available, and we're easy to find. You can Google me, and I'm all over the internet. So
love it. Love it. Thank you very much, Jerome. That's awesome. We look forward to staying in your world and learning more about you and following your success. And so we really sincerely appreciate it. Well, with the last couple minutes, I'd love to talk about, what nuggets or what am I trying to say? What can you tell the listeners and audience, people that are, want to get one step closer to, to what you're doing in terms of for something for themselves, either actively they want to go do what you're doing, or they really don't want to go do what you're doing, but they want to create wealth, right? Some people are like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want to invest and I want to get there and I want to build wealth, but I don't want to do anything that Jerome's doing. So, give a couple of nuggets or insights for those people that are on either of those journey, actively or passively, something that would help, both, or, compartmentalize, however you think about it, just some advice here.
Yeah. So best way biggest reason people fail, Abel, as you know, is they just never get started. They overanalyze things, or they don't analyze things at all, and they just never get started. So my first recommendation is get started. Even get started small. I think ego sometimes gets in the way, thinking that they're getting started too small. There is no such thing as too small. Just get started. And the biggest thing is, once you get started, stay consistent at it. This has been 26 years of ongoing consistency. I mean, I've been doing this consistently without stopping for 26 years. I mean,
Yeah.
So it's a consistent effort. For those people that don't want to do to the magnitude of what we're doing, become an active investor. You know, you'll be surprised. If you become an active investor, you can create wealth. One, you're a part of a deal that's tangible, that you can touch, feel, and it's great because you can generate wealth and be a part of the growth of the dynamics of being a part of a deal. And the one thing is, because you have equity ownership in it as an investor, you learn how to underwrite, you learn the deals, and you'd be surprised. You might land up loving something that you would otherwise consider that you may not, once you're a part of it, because they do get exciting. And so I tell people, if you don't want to be a part of the day-to-day, become an investor, a passive investor, and you're going to learn the real estate game in the process. Plus, you're going to benefit from it financially. But just get involved. You know, that's my biggest recommendation. You can't, you know, if you're on here, there's a reason you're on here, because there's something that sparked your interest. So just be involved and get started. That's the number one thing you got to do. And you got to stay consistent once you do.
Yeah, I love it. Consistency, get after it, take action, don't delay, just start wherever you're at. You know, for this advice that Jerome gave you, no matter where you're at in your life, your current situation, take the next step, take the next best step, is what one of my other buddies talks about all the time. And, you know, if you don't have any money, well, no problem. You can still educate yourself and go create some active income and then start saving. And that might be your next best step. If some of you have been sitting on capital for quite some time and you're just afraid, well, you may need the same education, underwriting, learn how to do that, and then invest, pull the trigger. You've got to flex a muscle. One of the things that I think I heard from this interview over and over and over again, Jerome, was the anxiety. I don't know if you use this word, but that's how I felt it. I go, oh shoot, there's anxiety every time I do a deal. I get a little nervousness, a little something in my stomach. Well, that I have the same every single deal that I do at this point, but it's a muscle that I've been able to work out since my first $116,000 house. Then it was a $160,000 house. Then it was a $200,000 house. Then it was, my fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth single family deal. And then it was my first 124 unit, $7 million project, or my first passive investment, even, $50K in someone else's deal. And every single time you do that, it's like a muscle that you work out. It gets easier and easier every single time. And, you know, you're still looking at the same mechanics, but just start, you know, is what I believe also. And exactly like Jerome said, stay consistent. Man, I don't know if I'm sure you kind of think about it this way, but when I heard you say it, I wrote down that first deal, your lot, you broke it up, you bought a lot, it was an acre, you split it in two, and then now your buy, build, develop, and sale has a similar game plan as you're doing since the very beginning. Buy a big piece of land, you have a piece, and go keep one and sell the rest, and that the sell or the development, build and sell now funds what you keep. And that's awesome. You're still doing the same stuff, just on a bigger scale, and it's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Exactly true. Yeah, I simplified. I didn't have anybody teaching me, man. I had to use common sense, Abel. And so, and if it works, I always tell people, don't fix it, you know, just scale it. And so it's been a great ride, and yeah, we're still doing it. And it's I've kept things simple. Don't complicate things.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much, man. I'm going to be, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've been very gracious with it. And I know people are going to get some value from listening to this and get into Jerome's world. I'm going to put a bunch of the links to his, you know, what is it called? The social links and some of the courses, that he's talked about. So that'll be in the show notes. Go check those out, support him. I think he's going to bring you a lot of value. And just like, he invested in his education, we encourage you to do the same. And let's get it on. So Jerome, thank you very much for joining. Appreciate it. I look forward to hearing you and seeing you more on Clubhouse. And then we'll just keep getting it on, man. I'm excited. I'm humbled that you take a few minutes here.
Yeah, no, Abel, it's been great, man. I always smile when I see you up there. Love hearing you talk and love what you're doing and love your story, man. And so just thank you for making the time to put me on your show. And yeah, it's going to be a good ride, man. Happy to have you as a friend in my life now. So it's going to be a great journey. Yep.
Absolutely, brother. All right. For those guests, this is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents podcast. Go subscribe, rate, and review our show so we can get some more social traction and get more amazing guests like Jerome. And we appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Five Talents podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the Five Talents podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us your favorite guest. Give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the Five Talents podcast.